Over the past few weeks, I've returned to weekly online figure drawing sessions, this time working digitally. There's something meditative about the process and these sessions. Multiple poses from the live model, limited time, and no room for overthinking. Just observation, rhythm, and flow. I've realised that these drawings aren't only about anatomy or proportion, they're about entering that state where the noise fades and you're fully immersed in the process. That flow state is something I talk a lot about in my free ebook because it's one of the most powerful ways to stay consistent and creative as an artist. I think if we as artists can enter this flow state more often and at will, we will discover our most focused, productive selves. For this session, I sat down and selected 4 poses that I wanted to develop further from the live session that I attended. I think I probably did about 15 to 20 quick sketches, 2 to 3 minutes long per pose. But for this video, I'm going to focus on pushing 3 to 4 a little bit further and seeing where I can take them. So this will be a time-lapse video from start to finish, and I will let the music play in some segments just so you can relax and maybe even draw in the background yourself. And then I'm going to add a few words here and there on what it is I'm drawing, what I'm thinking, what I'm learning, and things like that in order to help you a bit as well. So I started off the video showing the early stages of this pose, but this wasn't the first pose of the model that I had started drawing. This was a little bit later on in the session, but there was something about the pose that I really liked. In particular, it seemed like the model was able to embody a character very well in this pose, and I just really enjoyed it. I wanted to capture it. I felt like the way that the figure was arched over in such a way with this very interesting twist of the head and the neck and the look on his face, and also the really expressive hand gesture and position where the character's left arm is clutching the platform that he's resting on. And I really like the way that his fingers and hand were very expressive in that area, so I wanted to capture that as well. So this was one of the poses that I really liked, probably one of my favourite ones, and I liked the storytelling element of it, and hopefully I brought some of that forward in my drawing of the model. So one thing you might notice me doing in this drawing is I'm using some of the digital tools such as flipping the canvas horizontally, similar to holding a mirror up to the drawing, so I can see any potential mistakes in the proportion that I can correct once I flip it back to its original state. And I'm zooming in and out, but trying to stay zoomed out for as much of the process as I can in order to see the bigger picture of the pose and make correct proportional changes as I develop the drawing. This second pose that I'm showing you here, which is more of a back view, I really liked. I liked the action of it, and the model himself, I believe, was holding a stick, and I indicate that later on, but it was an action pose that I quite liked. The story I told myself in my own mind was he is in a hunting moment. He's like basically hunting something, or he's defending himself. It's either an attack or a defense against some kind of wild creature, a beast, or maybe he's fishing or something like that. So I was leaning more towards this is a defensive warning stance against some predatory animal of some kind, and he's backing away a little bit. You can see he's arched. I really like this, and I tried to bring some of the force through his right arm and make sure that I consider foreshortening and overlapping forms with his arm being closer to us, and also with the arm furthest away from us too. But I didn't want to go into too much detail with this pose. I just wanted to capture some of the light and tone around the figure, tell a bit of the story, and just try to capture the essence of what was happening, whilst also making sure that I keep the proportions as correct as possible. And I was doing this from a live model on a drawing class that I'm on with another great mentor and teacher who I absolutely admire. But one difficult thing about this is because it's on a live screen instead of directly in front of you in terms of having the model in front of you, you can have this lens distortion, so you have to compensate a little bit and make artistic changes and adjustments to the pose and to the proportions in order to try and get them correct, for them to more closely match and resemble how the figure looks without any lens distortion, and how he would look in real life if he was there in front of you doing such a pose. So this is a tricky thing to get around and something I'm learning at the moment. But I find these drawings really fun, and these sessions really fun. It's quite different to having the life drawings in person, which I also love doing, which when I do them, I do them traditionally, either with charcoal or pencil in my sketchbook. But I find that I'm learning a lot doing this, and I'm trying to focus a little bit more on capturing anatomy and how light falls across the figure and the musculature. So here I created two versions of the same pose, and I just went over to check the proportional differences, and I was happy with my corrections. So I moved on to this third pose, which is more of a torso shot of the character, of the model, who is embodying a character of some kind. And again, he was holding this stick behind him, almost like he's walking around something or doing a kind of warrior-like stance or dance, getting ready in a relaxed, almost a relaxed state, but preparing himself for potentially coming into contact with something with his stick. And he had this strained expression on his face, which added to the story dynamic, I think, because there's something that he's at least a little bit concerned about, it seems, something that he's looking at or imagining, whatever it is that's in front of him, and he may just have to take this stick out of this relaxed state that is behind him. You can see there with his right hand looking very relaxed, but his left hand is grasping it quite firmly, that he could just swing this stick round at any moment. And I think this adds to some of the storytelling element of the pose, which I really liked and wanted to capture. I decided to focus on the torso and the arms more than the legs for this pose, and particularly his facial expression too. I really liked the twist of the torso and the legs coming over them, but I decided to leave out most of the legs in this case. And feedback I got from my own instructor was to make sure to not have all of these muscle tonal values looking the same, and to consider things like the stretch, the pull of certain muscles to add a bit more story and lead the eye instead of everything being very much the same. And also, I was reminded to make sure to add tonal value describing underneath the form, the underside of the form, and allowing the light to fall on the top. This is something I definitely need to be more conscious and aware of with my figure drawings moving forward. I also move around the drawing and figure out what parts of the body that I want to strengthen the line weight of in order to direct the focus and attention to as well. Here again, I did a comparison and really liked the changes that I made based on the feedback. And then I decided to open all 3 of those sketches and line them up together on one sheet so you can see all of them in one. And then finally I included one very quick gesture sketch, which I just applied a few more lines of detail, nothing major, and corrected, I think, the proportion of his leg. It seemed like it was a little bit too long. Figure drawing is one of those practices that always brings you back to the fundamentals: observation, patience, and rhythm. If you want to connect with other artists and share your progress, my school community is a great place to join. It's where artists learn, grow, and stay inspired together. And if you'd like a free resource to help maintain your creative flow, I've also made a free ebook available. You'll find the download link in the description below.